Welcome to the Technical Writing Success Podcast, where we help you get smarter than your competition. This is episode 152. I'm Fred.
And I'm Daphne.
Today, we're looking at a really key tool in the API world, Swagger. We're basing our discussion on an article from our producer, Kurt Robbins. It's called Tool Review, Swagger, and it came out November 9th, 2025.
Yeah, and this is super relevant stuff if you're a technical writer or maybe a documentation specialist or even an IT pro working with APIs day to day.
Definitely. The focus here isn't just, listing features. It's about what Swagger means for you, the upsides, and maybe some of the risks, too.
Exactly, because APIs, well, they're everywhere now. They're like the glue holding modern software together.
Right, the connective tissue, as Kurt puts it in the article.
Precisely. But he makes a great point. An API without good documentation, it's basically useless. It's like having this amazing library packed with information, but absolutely no card catalog. You just can't find anything.
That really frames the problem, doesn't it? Documentation is what makes the API accessible, usable.
And that brings us to Swagger. But first, we really need to clear up something that trips a lot of people up.
Oh, yeah. What's up?
The difference between Swagger and the OpenAPI Specification, OAS.
Ah, right. People use them interchangeably sometimes.
They do, and it causes confusion. So OAS, that's the standard. It's the rule book, the language-agnostic way to describe RESTful APIs. It actually used to be called the Swagger Specification, but it was donated, became part of the Linux Foundation, and got renamed OAS to show it's neutral, not tied to one vendor.
Okay, so OAS is the blueprint, the specification itself. Then what is Swagger now?
Swagger, today, refers to the toolset. It's this powerful open-source suite of tools built around the OAS standard. SmartBear maintains it. Think Swagger Editor for writing the specs, Swagger UI for that interactive documentation, and Swagger Codegen for generating code. That's the ecosystem.
Got it. So when we talk about using Swagger, we're really talking about using these tools to work with the OAS standard.
Exactly. And the big win, the main thing Kurt highlights, is creating that single source of truth for the API.
How does having that one central file change things for a team?
Oh, immensely. It standardizes everything. When that definition file, that OAS file, is the ultimate truth, documentation isn't an afterthought, it's the core contract. Developers, testers, people consuming the API, everyone works from the same set of rules.
And the most visible part of that, especially for documentation folks, has to be Swagger UI. That's the shiny part.
Absolutely. That's often the first thing people see. Swagger UI just automatically takes that definition file, whether it's YAML or JSON, and boom, you get a really nice interactive documentation website right in the browser. It's not just static text.
Yeah, and the killer feature there is the try it out button. That's kind of the magic moment, isn't it?
It really is. It transforms the docs from something you just read into something you can actually use immediately. You can see the parameters, okay, but then you can put in some sample data, hit execute, and make a live API call right there.
And see the real request, the real response.
Exactly. It confirms everything works as expected before you write a single line of your own code. Speeds up understanding so much.
Okay, so that interactivity is huge. And you mentioned earlier this is often tied to a design-first approach.
Right. Swagger tools, especially Swagger Editor, really encourage designing the API contract before you start coding.
Why is that better than the old way of just coding first and documenting later?
Because it forces everyone to agree upfront. You define the paths, the methods, the request and response structures. All that detail gets hammered out first. So the front-end team knows exactly what the API will look like, and the back-end team knows exactly what they need to build. It prevents so many headaches down the line.
Fewer integration nightmares, basically.
You got it. You sort out the ambiguities early when it's cheap to fix.
Okay, another big pro mentioned is Swagger Codegen. Sounds like a huge time saver.
Oh, it is. It's a massive productivity boost. You feed Codegen your OAS file.
The single source of truth.
Exactly, and it spits out code for you. It can generate server stubs, like the basic skeleton of your API server in various languages, and maybe even more importantly, it generates client SDKs. So libraries for Java, Python, C#, JavaScript, tons of others that people can use to talk to your API easily.
Wow. So you don't have to write and maintain all that boilerplate connection code yourself?
Nope. Codegen handles it. We're talking potentially thousands of lines of code you don't have to write or debug. Developers can focus on the actual business logic instead.
That's a pretty compelling set of advantages. Makes sense why it's so popular.
It does. But like any tool, it's not perfect. There are downsides.
Let's take a brief break for a special message from our producer, Kurt Robbins.
Hi, this is Kurt Robbins. First, thanks for listening. I truly appreciate your support. I want to let you know that I'm currently accepting new clients. My rates are affordable, and I have more than 25 years of experience working for enterprise companies like Microsoft, Northrop Grumman, Oracle, PNC Bank, FedEx, USAA, and Wells Fargo, among many others. If you want to improve your IT documentation and communications, hire me. I deliver fast, know how to use AI to improve efficiency and accuracy, and love going the extra mile to satisfy my clients. Thank you for subscribing and listening. Back to you, Daphne and Fred.
Welcome back to the Technical Writing Success Podcast. All right, before the break, we were talking about all the great things Swagger brings: standardization, interactive docs, code generation. But now let's look at the other side of the coin, the challenges. Kurt's article mentions complexity as a big one.
Yeah, the OpenAPI specification itself, while powerful, it's complex. It's not something you just pick up in an afternoon. And those definition files, the YAML or JSON, they can get long. For a really complex API, you could be looking at thousands of lines.
Just scrolling forever.
Pretty much. And navigating that, making sure everything is correct, it can be tedious. The structure is very strict.
What makes it so tedious? Is it just the length?
It's the syntax, too. YAML is sensitive to indentation. JSON needs perfect commas and brackets. One tiny mistake, like a misplaced comma or the wrong data type, and the whole definition can break. Your documentation might not render, or Codegen might fail. It demands real precision.
Precision is key. And that leads into what Kurt calls the maintenance trap, right? This sounds like the biggest risk, especially for writers.
It absolutely is. This is the concept of documentation drift. Swagger UI is only as good as the definition file behind it,
Right.
meaning if a developer changes the API code, maybe they add a required field or change how an error response looks, but they forget to update that OAS definition file.
Then the documentation is wrong.
Exactly. The documentation becomes a lie, as the article puts it. And that's dangerous.
Worse than no documentation at all, arguably.
Definitely worse. Because users trust the documentation. If they follow it and things break because the underlying code is different, they waste hours debugging. They lose trust in your API, maybe even your whole product. It underscores the need for really strict processes.
So the code changes must be reflected in the spec immediately.
Yes. The spec, the contract, has to be the source of truth, always kept in sync with the implementation. It often means tech writers need to be part of the code review process, or there needs to be tooling to enforce that sync.
So the writer's job becomes less about just describing and more about ensuring that contract integrity.
Precisely. It's about governance.
Okay, one more con, going back to Codegen. We said it generates code, saves time, but the article says the output isn't perfect.
Right. It's important to understand its limitations. Codegen generates a scaffold. It's a fantastic starting point, but it's not finished, production-ready code right out of the box.
What's typically missing?
Things like sophisticated error handling, specific security measures your company needs, complex business logic that isn't just basic CR-root operations. Codegen can't guess all that. Developers need to take the generated code and then refine it, add the crucial pieces, maybe clean it up a bit before it's ready for prime time.
So it accelerates the start, but doesn't eliminate the need for skilled developers to finish the job.
Exactly. Don't expect magic. Expect a head start.
Okay, so we've got the pros and cons. How do you decide if Swagger is right for you? The article breaks it down by organization type.
Yeah, it's not necessarily a one-size-fits-all solution. For big companies, large enterprises, Swagger is often almost essential. They deal with API sprawl, hundreds, maybe thousands of APIs. Swagger provides that desperately needed standardization and governance to manage it all.
So for them, the maintenance effort is worth the control they gain.
It's a cost of doing business at that scale, yeah. A necessary price for consistency and managing risk.
What about small companies, startups, especially API-first ones?
For startups where the API is the product, Swagger is basically non-negotiable. That Swagger UI site, that is their storefront for developers. It lets them move fast, look professional immediately, enforce good habits early, and provide those client SDKs via Codegen, which lowers the barrier for their customers to integrate.
Makes sense. And what about individual consultants or freelancers?
Here, it's often about professionalism and efficiency, delivering a project that includes a polished Swagger UI site that screams quality. It acts as living documentation and an acceptance testing tool for the client. Plus, Codegen helps the consultant get the basic API structure up quickly so they can focus on the custom work.
So it adds value to their deliverables.
Definitely.
So wrapping this all up, thinking about the technical writers listening, What's the big takeaway from this review of Swagger?
I think the most fundamental shift, the core idea, is how Swagger changes when documentation happens and when the writer's expertise is most valuable. Because it pushes for that design-first approach, you, the writer, are getting involved much earlier. You're not just documenting what got built after the fact. You're actually helping to define the API contract, the requirements, the behavior before major coding starts. Your input shapes the product.
That's a significant change. It elevates the role.
It really does. It moves the technical writer from someone who describes the system to someone who helps architect its clarity and usability from the very beginning. It's about ensuring the integrity of that contract.
A powerful position to be in, ensuring that clarity right from the start. Thank you for listening to the Technical Writing Success Podcast from Kurt Robbins, where we help you get smarter than your competition. Remember to like, subscribe, comment, and share. We'll see you next time.